On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is Talk TV.
I'm Piers Morgan. Uncensored tonight. Eco-zealots plot to disrupt the London Marathon after wrecking the snooker and invading the Grand National and apparently threatening to do the same at the coronation. But the public and every political party already backed their cause, so what are they doing? Sam Smith unites parents, ball clutchers and pop fans in horror with an X-rated global tour. Are they, as he calls himself, testing the limits of artistic expression, or are they a ghastly attention-seeking, vomit-inducing weirdo? We will debate. Plus, the shocking absurdity of Britain's asylum system laid bare, Albanian gangsters living in hotels, but an Afghan war veteran who flew combat missions with us against the Taliban is facing deportation to Rwanda. How can that be right? I'm going to save him.
Live from the News Building in London, this is Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Well, good evening, London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. A whopping 74% of British adults say they're worried about climate change, as am I. Every major political party agrees and has a plan to spend billions on fixing it. 97% of publishing scientists say humans are warming up the planet with serious consequences. That's undeniable. These are numbers that even Kim Jong-un could only dream about. So what exactly is the point of this?
Oh dear, we've got a protester. We've got a protester who's throwing powder on the table. Oh, never seen the like of this before. Well, look at this.
That's a Just Stop Oil protester, and there was another one there as well, wrecking the snooker at the Crucible on Monday night. A professional imbecile who mounted the table, tossed orange powder everywhere, shrieked dementedly to a mostly working-class crowd of sports fans who'd probably spent most of the year saving up to be at snooker's big event. I would wage every penny in Elon Musk's bank account that precisely none of them, nor any of the many millions watching at home, watched that ridiculous performance and thought, oh yeah, wow, that really makes me want to support Just Stop Oil. This is the same band of selfish, mainly middle-class twerps who risk their lives and the safety of many other people by disrupting the British Grand Prix. They've regularly shut down motorways and blocked roads. They've glued themselves to priceless artworks. They've coated Ferrari and Aston Martin showrooms in paint. They threw tomato soup at a Van Gogh. And they've interrupted football matches by strapping themselves to the goalposts. They're a campaign group which is attempting to persuade the public to agree with them about something they already agree with. And they're basically doing stuff now to annoy the public as much as they possibly can and stop the public enjoying things or going about their daily lives. And if that is seriously your strategy, I would argue you have net zero brain cells. The fact is that Britain has a comparatively good record now on climate change. The world's biggest polluters, like China and Russia, have diabolical records. But have you ever seen Greta Thunberg in Moscow or Beijing? Or a single Just Stop Oil protester in either of those places? Or even outside the Chinese embassy here? Well, apparently one or two of them have popped along there. But what they don't do is what they do to our lives, anywhere where the real polluters lie. And their partners in crime, Extinction Rebellion, are planning to disrupt the London Marathon this weekend, we're told. Another bunch, Animal Rising, invaded the Grand National last weekend, causing such a commotion that one of the horse trainers actually directly blamed the commotion for the death of their horse. Well, today, this whining video is released about the robust response that those Aintree protesters met from local police.
The police officers were laughing at me and calling other police officers over and saying, oh my God, look at this, look at the state of this is hilarious. And although I couldn't see, I could hear clicking and it was like they were taking pictures of me.
The officer pulling my hair was obviously behind me and I couldn't read her badge number. So I asked her to identify herself multiple times, to which she just kept repeating, you're a screaming in my ear. The other officers carrying me similarly refused to identify her, so I have no way to follow this up.
Oh, did she pull your hair? Oh no, really? You poor little chap. I think that police officer spoke for all of us. He's a... Well, joining me now is James Skeet from Just Stop Oil and fellow environmental campaigner Donica McCarthy. OK, well, I've made my feelings pretty clear. Here's the problem I have with this Just Stop Oil thing. is that most people agree with the issue that you're campaigning for. Most people in the polls think there's a real problem with climate change. I'm one of them. No arguments with that. But most people, in fact, the vast majority now, are absolutely sick and tired of what Just Stop Oil are doing. They think it's puerile, pathetic, and it's not advancing the cause one iota. Nobody is walking around going, God, they've wrecked the snooker. I must come round to their cause. Why do this stuff? I don't get it.
Well, just for transparency, Piers, you've signed a deal for £50 million for this show.
You don't know what deal I've signed.
You've signed a deal for £50 million
for this show. You don't know what deal I've signed.
With Rupert Murdoch, who sits on the board of Genie Oil and Gas. So, just for transparency, just so we're all aware that that's what...
I do work for Rupert Murdoch, yes.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, he owns this network.
Yes, and he has spent decades persuading the British people and
well, let's leave Rupert Murdoch out of it. This is about
the world,
me asking you about the merits of wrecking regular life for Britons in this country. I don't get it. For example, do you support what happened at the snooker?
Of course I support what happened at the snooker.
Why? Why are you laughing?
Am I laughing?
Yeah, you are. You're smirking. And so was the guy who did the stunt at the snooker. And here's my problem. It's all a bit of a game for you guys. You regularly get seen smirking and laughing. It's all a bit of fun. It's not fun for the people whose lives you're ruining.
Piers, when the last IPCC report was released, and that's basically the sound of the world's climate scientists banging their heads against the desks, basically, in despair that no one's listening to them, that made page 11 of the Daily Mail underneath two women arguing over their geraniums, right? As a result of what happened on Monday, our demand has been on the front of every...
No, your demand wasn't on the front page. That idiot was on the front page,
millions
spraying a snooker table with orange paint.
Millions of conversations have been elicited, and if even a tenth of them draw attention to the fact that the British government are ploughing ahead with over 100 new fossil fuel licences, opening new coal mines in the middle of the worst crisis that we've ever seen, then it's a win. Don't you think?
So you think... No, I don't. I don't think it's a win at all. I think it's a massive lose, actually. I think what you're doing is alienating a public who might well be persuaded, because they show it in the polls, to come on your side.
I'm glad you agree.
But at the moment, they think you're a bunch of annoying twerps wrecking their lives. Let me bring in you here. Donegal, I don't understand why you can't... Because you're not an unintelligent person. I've followed your stuff for a few years. Why you can't understand that this is backfiring? Why you don't get that the British public are sick of it?
I think what's really interesting, Piers, is that you've just spent 5 minutes talking about tactics when you actually said you are seriously concerned about this issue.
Yeah.
And we would really welcome conversations on Talk TV about the issues. You said, the British government is doing good. Well, actually, a report came out last week from RAN about global investment in new fossil fuels. Since Copenhagen, $6 trillion invested in new fossil fuels. 15% came from the UK.
Okay, let me answer.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I think it's a talk about an issue.
I'm going to give you a follow-up question to that, which is this.
But
I need to
finish the point on investment.
Tell me the carbon emissions for the UK and then for China and Russia and India.
Britain is investing 15% of the global investment in fossil fuels globally, which, according to the International Energy Agency, according to the European Investment Bank, and even HSBC are saying we do not need. Investing $7 trillion over the next 10 years is a suicide note for humanity.
OK, so
why are we not talking about that?
So you say. But I'll ask you again.
So do the world scientists say.
OK, yes, but there is actually a very debatable response from the scientists about exactly the best way to tackle this. Because I would listen to a woman, for example, on Nick Ferrari's show on LBC the other day, saying that within 8 years, if we stopped awarding any licences now, we'd have 8 more years of gas and oil. And then she said we could actually sustain this country for all the power we need from wind and waves.
That's what we're saying. We're agreeing.
It's completely unworkable. There is nobody with a brain who has managed to work out a way that could possibly be done in 8 years.
Do you actually...
So you guys are living...
Do you believe...
You guys are living in cloud cuckoo land.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You are.
Piers, are you saying the European Investment Bank, HSBC, the International Energy Agency, knows more than you? Because what I am saying is quoting them.
I'm not saying they know more than me, no. I'm telling you...
Well, they are actually saying that we can't invest in new fossil fuels because we've got enough fossil fuels to last for 50 years.
In my estimation, the sensible way to do this is to move slowly off fossil fuels to renewable energy,
Yes.
to make it affordable and make it practical,
That's
so
what
that
the
we don't
international
have
agency-
half the country turned into wind farms. That's the sensible way to do this, right? And I'm up for that sensible debate. That's not why you two were booked on this show. You two were booked on this show because the methods that you're using, in my opinion, are now damaging your cause. They are actually deterring the public from supporting you. And again, I ask you, why do it? Why rick the snooker? Why go and chuck stuff at Van Gogh? Why go and do these stupid things?
Why is the government investing massive amounts in new fossil fuels when the IEA says we can't afford it? Why is the government saying one thing and doing the opposite?
You're playing whataboutery. My question
no, I'm
is...
not. I'm absolutely core to this issue. You're talking about a piece of powder, and I'm talking about billions
I'm talking about you being
destroying our
I'm talking
planet.
about you being on a destructive mission to piss off the public.
Do you know who's on
and in my long time in the media, I can tell you, it's not going to work.
The very fact that we're having this conversation is a testament to the efficacy of these tactics.
It's not.
Right?
I heard you guys say this.
The fact is,
you've not
that
been
people,
brought on
the British
because of
people,
your sophisticated
the
scientific
British
opinion
people,
about climate change.
the
You've been
British
brought
people,
on. You've been brought on because your idiot
gonna let me
friends
finish?
have been once again wrecking things for people.
The fact of the matter is that we're seeing that the only real leverage that normal people have is through disruptive tactics, right? The nurses know it, the train drivers know it, the junior doctors.
So why don't you go where the
okay?
real polluters are? Why don't you go to Beijing?
Because we
Why
need
don't
to
you
get
go to
our own
Russia?
house in order before we go around
because you're
the world
moral,
telling people what to do.
You are moral cowards. You're moral cowards. It's easier to go and ruin an old granny's day at the Crucible than it is to get on a plane and go to Beijing or to get to
The
North
fact of the matter is
swim
that
there.
we are the 8th biggest emitter historically. We have to get our own house in order before we go around the world lecturing.
I've asked you, and I'll ask you now.
If you're talking about moral cowardice, if you're talking about moral cowardice, why don't you go to Sudan?
Hang on.
Why don't you go to Pakistan and interview the people whose lives are dying and are flooded? If you were courageous and use your amazing role that you've got, you could be courageous.
Just to clarify, it's not your show.
No, but shouting doesn't work.
I do the question.
You do the shouting.
Stop shouting at me then.
Good.
You haven't answered my
question. Let's have a conversation.
Let's have a question.
Good.
See if you can answer it. What are the CO2 emissions for this country, and what are they for China and Russia and India?
Per capita, the emissions...
Not per capita, what are the emissions?
China's emissions...
What percentage of the emissions in the world come from China?
Using childish maths is silly.
Childish maths?
Yes.
They're statistical facts.
Because, no, a country that's bigger than UK has
more... What percentage of the global emissions come from China?
Are you talking about production emissions or consumption emissions?
Just give me the emissions.
You are actually...
Those are two very different figures.
Look at you guys. You're so expert in every part of it.
No, I can tell you.
You don't want to tell me.
No, I want to tell you.
You don't want to tell me because you know the answer.
No, do why you're asking this question? You already want me to answer? What I am saying is China is 20 times bigger in population than the UK, so its emissions are 20 times bigger. But our investments are 15 times.
So when are you going to Beijing?
When you go to Sudan and to Pakistan.
I'll fly you to Beijing.
When you go to Sudan
I'll fly you to
Pakistan.
Beijing.
Can we agree?
I'll put you guys on a plane tomorrow to Beijing. I'll pay, right? You're going to go and protest?
I will go with you.
You're not, are you? You're not. You're moral cowards.
What will it actually take?
You'd rather go and chuck paint at
Stop being such a
paintings.
gammon windbag and listen.
I'm not a gammony windbag.
Oh my God.
I just think you guys are honestly moronic in the way you're going about this.
If you want to go to Beijing,
tango,
come with us to Pakistan, come with us to Sudan, and talk to the...
How are you going to get there?
Talk to people who are dying.
How are you going to get there?
This is the usual...
How are you going to get there?
You just invited me to Beijing, and I said, I'll go there if you go to Pakistan.
How are you going to get there?
I will fly to Pakistan.
You fly, okay. So you believe in flying?
What's it actually
No,
going to take?
that's a child.
Well, you've been on...
I don't fly for holidays, do you?
Danica, you've been on...
You fly for holidays.
You've been on national television. I watched this interview. You went on my old programme, Good Morning Britain, and you actually said you wanted everyone to get rid of their pets. You are the great pet slaughterer.
You want to fly
Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Do you fly for holidays?
Let's take a look.
You're just playing the person, not the actual issues.
You could be talking about human beings as well. I mean, it's one thing to give up your car, but you're not going to give up a loved member of your family, which, frankly, is what people consider cats and dogs.
Well, if we love our members of our family, if we love our kids, do you not accept we have to look after the climate crisis?
Firstly, I want to look after my kids and my pets. That's quite
shocking. That's quite shocking. Do you understand the level of crisis that the carbon emissions are currently in the planet?
You think I shouldn't be looking after my children and my pets?
I'm saying that to look after and love your children, you have to look after your carbon emissions.
Dying in Sudan. and the people drowning.
Yeah, Donegal, just to be clarified, no one could hear you when that was airing. That was you saying we should all get rid of our pets. Do you stand by that?
Is this the tonality?
You wait your turn. Do you stand by that?
I stand by.
Hang on, let him answer. You said that on national TV.
What I stand by...
Do you stand by we should all get rid of our pets?
What I stand by is that you should look at the women who are dying in Sudan.
Do you answer questions,
Danica?
Do you answer questions?
I'm here to actually
Is this
debate
what passes for journalism when you're not hacking into murdered children's phones?
Oh, OK. So, unfortunately, you've just committed a very serious libel, because that was another newspaper, which if you were slightly more intelligent and well-informed, you would have known that allegation, which is made against me most days on Twitter by idiots like you, is actually a disgusting lie. So here's your chance to now apologise for a disgusting lie. You prepared to do that?
Absolutely not.
OK, well then, if I were you, I'd have a chat with your lawyers after the show and see how they react to what you've just said.
So do you think we should be having grown-up conversation about...
Well, I don't have any money.
Well, I don't think spewing disgusting, defamatory lies about something that I had nothing to do with
well,
is actually what I would call a grown-up situation.
I agree. You want to talk about grown-up situation? You want to talk about grown-up situation?
Why don't you shut up for a minute?
For you to emotionally connect with the reality of what's happening here. You have a child.
I'm not asking you. I've got 4 children.
You've got 4 children. Let me ask you... And you don't...
If you could sit back...
What?
I think you've said enough for the last 5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Let me ask you, Donica, do you stand by your claim that we should get rid of all the pets?
I did not ever say that. I didn't say it. I was actually... It was actually...
And what an irrelevant discussion.
You think that's irrelevant to a nation of pet lovers?
Hang on. I did not say that, first of all. And secondly, trying to play the person...
Millions of people
are
dying.
Not playing the personal.
Have you ever watched...
You want to save the human beings and get rid of all the pets?
33 million people were displaced last year. 60 UK families lost their houses in wildfires as a result of 25,000 wildfires when we hit 40 degrees. And you're not emotionally connecting with the reality of this at all.
I'm emotionally connecting with you. I think you're an absolute idiot.
Because you're a multi-millionaire and you don't care. You don't care about the British people. You don't care about the working class.
Yeah.
You care about the rich. You care about being a shield for Rupert Murdoch.
What you're doing is what you silly little boys do.
You're calling me a silly little boy.
You silly little boys. You come on TV.
Pathetic gammony man, baby.
You do your little silly sound bites for Twitter, and Twitter goes, "Oh, look at my little hero," whereas the rest of the public watching go, "Who is this little brat?" Oh, it's those guys that jump on snooker tables. It's those guys that ruin the Grand National.
No wonder.
It's those guys that do all this stuff.
Is this the quality of it? This is why you've had to...
Danica, do you want to try and get in? Because this guy's just
I think what would be really useful, rather than actually all of us indulging in personal attacks, is if we could have a serious debate and invite the oil companies in here, Piers.
But do you understand how hard it is to have a serious debate when you have this kind of moron spewing this kind of stuff?
Inviting the oil companies and things like that. Have a constructive debate about why we're investing billions.
Unfortunately, James, you are a complete moron.
What's your evidence?
Would you accept that?
The evidence is what the viewers have been watching. I'm
trying to have a serious conversation about the most critical issue facing humanity, and you're talking about stuff from...
I actually do wonder what kind of humanity would be left if people like you were the only ones left. Honestly, it would be like a place. I mean, a place where you're not allowed pets. A place where people like you are running the country. I would literally rather die. Anyway, it's been lovely catching up. Thank you both very much indeed for your time. Uncensored next. They are at it again. Sam Smith has stunned crowds with sexualised, satanic-inspired performances on a new world tour. Artistic genius, gay icon, or attention-seeking loon? We'll debate that.
Britain's conversation. Oh no. With the People's Channel. No, already used. Every little helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger-licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. Talk TV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on Talk TV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
if you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Join Vanessa Feltz on Talk TV every day from 4 p.m. He's back, and he's uncensored. Debating the breaking news and talking to the biggest names. Piers Morgan is live every week with a host of stars. Uncompromising, unmissable, and uncensored. And remember,
if you're thinking it, we're talking about it.
Piers Morgan, Uncensored, Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on Talk TV.
Well, that was a quiet start to the evening proceedings. Welcome back. Sam Smith is back again with more attention-seeking vulgarity. They're never one to do things quietly in recent years. We have to remember to call him they, their, them, even though there's only one of them. Remember the latex balloon at the Brits? But they've taken things up a notch, haven't they, with a new global tour criticised as hypersexualised and satanic. And apologise if you're easily offended for what you're about to see. Yeah, exactly. Well, joining me now is comedian James Barr and best-selling author of The Madness of Crowds, Douglas Murray. Well, Douglas, let me start with you. I don't get this Sam Smith thing. It just seems like every week he deliberately... I'm sorry, even though there's only one of them. Why is Sam Smith they?
No, please do address Douglas first, but I just need to correct you if you're going to misgender. That's how they identify themselves, Piers.
Why is one person they?
Because that's how they identify.
Why have I got to go along with it?
Because they've asked you to.
So what? No one's asked me to.
Even the Pope respects people's pronouns now.
I don't have to respect anybody's pronouns.
Well, that's fine, as long as that's your decision.
My pronoun is hottest man in the world.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to call you that,
Well,
Piers.
go on then.
Some may disagree, but if that's what you are, then cool, I will address you as the hottest man in the world.
Throughout the entire interview?
Throughout the entire interview.
OK, let's stick to that. Douglas, let's come back to you. You don't have to call me the hottest man in the world, even if you're thinking it. Sam Smith. To me, he's just on an ever-deteriorating campaign to be as vulgar and offensive as he possibly can. Am I missing something?
He's doing what pop stars have done for decades, which is trying to shock as a means to get publicity. And, of course, it's pretty successful. I mean, we're talking about him at the moment. But it's striking that it's sort of very unoriginal. I mean, all the stuff he's doing, the sort of over-sexualized stuff, the sort of satanic stuff. Madonna did this 40 years ago. Pop stars have done this and more for decades now. I think the only thing that Sam Smith has got sort of going for him on this, and the thing that actually is making people notice him on this, is that, first of all, he keeps sort of throwing these bollards in the way of everyone by changing his alleged gender all the time. You know,
Okay,
he came out some years ago.
Wait a second, James. I'll bring you in.
he came out many years ago as gay, and then he said he was actually genderqueer, and then he said he was non-binary, and he said he didn't know what it meant. Of course he didn't, because there's no such thing. But he said that they were going to. He said that he thought that he was genderqueer. And he didn't know what it meant, but he said that he would explain it someday when he did know. And I sort of think, if you're going to make everyone else distort the language, you should know what you're talking about first. So he does that to get publicity, obviously. And the other thing he does is he does this sort of taking all his clothes off stuff. And the thing that makes it different from other people is that when, I don't know, Justin Timberlake or Rihanna or someone stripped down, they do so because they look good, like their bodies look good. Sam Smith is like pudgy and very ugly. And so people look at it and he looks ridiculous. And the problem is that he's saying, don't ridicule me. But it's hard not to ridicule people when they present themselves as
disgusting.
ridiculous.
What are you talking about?
Okay, on that point, I completely agree. Why say don't ridicule me when you deliberately make yourself look ridiculous?
No, that is disgusting. That is a completely disgusting.
Well, it is disgusting, yeah. We do find it disgusting.
No, what you're saying is
disgusting. We're allowed to find it disgusting.
No, you are not.
Yes,
you
I am.
Keep commenting on what people look like all the time.
Yes, I can. If they're going to dress like that on a stage in front of millions of people around the world, absolutely I can.
Thank you for getting the pronoun correct. I really appreciate that. Listen,
did I?
Douglas, yes, you did.
Well, have you called me mine?
Hottest man in the world, Piers, according to some and yourself.
Yeah.
Listen, the Pope recently said they completely accept every gender identity and that everyone is a child.
Why should anyone be compelled to use a pronoun from someone who's changed their own identity 3 times in 3 years?
I just want to go back as well.
Also
How do you keep up with it?
Actually, I think it's very important to note that other pop stars have done this, including Lewis Capaldi, who recently did a campaign where he was naked on a billboard, and there were nowhere near as many vile comments at Lewis Capaldi's body. The only reason there's a problem for Sam doing it is because you aren't happy with his gender identity because it makes you feel insecure.
No, I don't care about his gender identity. I just don't feel I can be compelled to use pronouns. I don't care about
that. That's fine. Don't use them if you don't want to. That's wrong, but that's totally
you just told me I had to.
No, I think you should, but if you don't want to,
so I don't have
decision. Piers, shut up.
Well, I'm not Piers. I'm hottest man alive.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so you're changing your name now. You're no longer...
But my point about Sam Smith is it's just an orgy of, in my view, narcissistic, self-indulgent, deliberately shocking stuff. And Douglas has got a point. He looks terrible.
Okay, so...
why would you do this?
You're friends with Ozzy Osbourne, right?
Yeah.
And Ozzy Osbourne ate a bat's head on stage.
Yeah.
That could be considered vulgar. I mean, he basically...
Ozzy Osbourne never did anything like this.
He started the COVID pandemic.
You can't seriously think
about Sam Smith getting their tits out.
You can't seriously think what we're looking at here is actually anything other than ridiculous.
No, I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think it's brilliant. I think it's sexy. I think it's inspirational.
You think that's sexy?
That is, and that's someone.
Do you think what we're looking at right now is sexy?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Would you shag it?
Would I shag it? Did you say?
Well, there's a question.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have sex with Sam. Thank you for asking.
You're a braver
would you,
man
Douglas?
than me.
Because it sounds like you're a little bit too obsessed with them, if I'm honest with you.
No. I can assure you I'm not. I know what I like, and I don't like fat, blubbery show-offs who look hideous dressed in lacy pants with their fat spilling out everywhere and doing it in front of as many people as possible to gain attention. I just don't find that sexy. I'm old-fashioned.
James?
So why on earth are you friends with Piers Morgan?
Well, you'll notice, of course, that Piers hasn't appeared on this show naked with nipple tassels on.
Yet,
I mean, that's one big
Douglas,
starter, isn't it?
Yet.
Again, I
the
just
night is young.
I want to quote the Pope again because the Pope has done this documentary.
Are you a Catholic? Do you think we're
I'm not,
all
but I think it's really
Catholic? Well, I am a
important.
Catholic,
I think it's
so what are you
So the Pope said that to express yourself sexually is a richness, and that anything that detracts from real sexual expression lessens you and depletes that richness.
But he's not doing this for sexual expression.
Oh, dear
he's
God.
doing this just...
He's
doing it just to be deliberately offensive.
Why don't you both just go back to clutching your pearls, go back to
I don't have any pearls. Douglas, are we misreading the room here? Are there millions of young people around the world watching this thinking he's the hottest thing on a stage anywhere in the world right now and we should just get used to it?
No, I don't think so at all. No gay guys I know are attracted to this. Everyone thinks it's just kind of ugly and stupid, and it's attention-grabbing and much more. I think Sam Smith's a person of limited talent myself. I don't much care for his voice. Wow. But the point is that, of course, he just kind of goes around and tries to make headlines. And as I say, he's pretty successful at doing that. But I don't think anyone finds it sexy. I don't know any woman who finds it sexy. I don't know any gay man who finds it sexy. Most gay men I know are attracted to men because they're men. Sam Smith Smith, by the way, is he's always trying to cop off with people like Tom Daley and things.
I don't
and
think
they
you can speak for all gay men, to be honest with you, Douglas. Those are pretty much your own words from things I've heard you say before. You can't speak for an entire community.
No, I don't try to. I don't believe there's any such thing as a gay community or an LGBTQIA plus
I think actually, if you think this show is offensive, you should come to my
else.
stand-up show, because compared to that, Sam Smith's tour is a love letter to Christianity and Jesus.
Really?
So I'll see you at my tour. Starts tomorrow, by the way.
I didn't know you were touring, but good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know what, James? Best of luck with the tour. You're never going to persuade me, and clearly not Douglas either, that Sam Smith is anything other than an attention seeker. Because...
But this whole debate is attention-seeking. Isn't being an artist about attention-seeking?
Well, it
Isn't
could
that
be.
The whole point?
It could be, but when you're just going to that kind of length, just to be deliberately, slobbishly offensive, I think it's unacceptable.
But you're doing what you would say is slobbishly offensive. You're doing that right now by saying vulgar things about Sam Smith and deliberately misgendering
but I'm not
them.
wearing a Satan outfit.
Doesn't matter what you decide is right or
naked
wrong.
and semi-naked.
And once again, if you act in a vulgar way, you should expect people to be vulgar about you, probably.
I think that's the point. If you're going to do what he does, it's a bit like Madonna, you know, when she says, stop objectifying me. What else are we supposed to do with Madonna, given that all she ever does is demand we objectify?
You know what? You're both cis, white, straight men. You can carry on.
I'm not a cis anything.
Right.
Honestly, I'm not. I don't even know what cis is.
Look, it's
what is cis?
It's absolutely fine if you just want to both be.
When I was
horrible.
born, nobody said I was a cis. What is a cis?
Hang on, I got to hear. That's not what I'm here to discuss, but what I am here to tell you is that you're
apparently our skin colour is now relevant.
I've got to hear that.
We're white men.
You've got your clicks.
So you're now
being viral debate.
So you're now being racist and calling me a sissy or something.
Hang on, Piers. Wait a second. What did he just say?
What did you call us? Repeat it for Douglas.
I said you were both... I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Cis, white...
I think you said... OK, why don't you shut up for a moment?
Straight
I think you said...
Well, Douglas isn't straight.
I think you said that we're both...
Douglas?
I think you said we're both cis, white, straight men. First of all, I am white. Secondly, I am a man. Thirdly, I've been out and gay my entire adult life, which is about 25 years now. I don't know how old you are.
For not supporting the community,
I was out as gay when you were still prancing around talking about whether or not you were. So do be quiet. Do stop judging other people. And if I were you, I'd do a
judging
little
other
bit of
people? Are
research.
you joking?
I would do a little...
Oh my God, Douglas, that's ridiculous. I'm not the one judging other people here. I'm just pointing out facts. I'm sorry I got your sexuality wrong.
No, if I were you, I would do the tiniest bit of research before opening your mouth. You're embarrassing yourself. That's probably why people wouldn't want to come to your show.
All right, embarrassing yourself.
Gentlemen,
you're a shame to the queer
community. You know what? I tell you who's really embarrassing.
I'm not a member of the queer community, you stupid sod.
I tell you,
I'm not a member of the queer community.
The person who ultimately is genuinely embarrassing himself, herself, themselves, whatever, is Sam Smith. On that note, we'll leave it. Thank you both very much with a picture of sexy Sam.
I hate you, Douglas.
Yeah, never
Douglas,
heard of
thank you very much.
Cheers.
James, thank you very much. I'm glad we ended with such harmony. It's been a very harmonious evening. Well, Uncensored next. A more serious issue, the Afghan pilot who flew combat missions for Britain against the Taliban. He now faces deportation to Rwanda after coming here on one of the little boats. We'll debate that next.
Britain's conversation. Oh no. With the People's Channel. No, what do you use? Every little helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger-licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. Talk TV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on Talk TV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Join Vanessa Feltz on Talk TV every day from 4 p.m. He's back, and he's uncensored. Debating the breaking news and talking to the biggest names. Piers Morgan is live every week with a host of stars. Uncompromising, unmissable, and uncensored. And remember,
if you're thinking it, we're talking about it.
Piers Morgan, Uncensored, Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on Talk TV. This is Talk TV.
Well, it's an image that we've become all too familiar with. Hundreds of people crammed onto small boats crossing the channel. The government is using hotels and even container ships to house tens of thousands of people as they wait for asylum claims to be processed. It wants to send illegal migrants to Rwanda as a deterrent. But one man now facing deportation in that manner is an Afghan war veteran who flew combat missions against the Taliban with us. He only had one way to enter the UK, and that turned out to be on a small boat. He's now facing deportation to Rwanda. He says he's been forgotten by the people he worked alongside. And a campaign to stop his deportation through is gathering strength. It's been driven by the Independent newspaper and has the backing of a number of senior military figures. And now this programme too is joining the fight to get justice for this hero. Well, joining me now is Lord Dannatt, the former head of the British Army, who's announced his support for the campaign, and Geordie Greig, editor-in-chief of The Independent. Welcome to both of you. Geordie, I read this, and it's been building for several weeks, your campaign. You've had a lot of great names getting behind it. And the more you read, the more incensed you become about what's happened to this guy, but also the more you realise that there's a lot more to some of these stories on the small boats than the public probably realise.
Piers, this is a hero. He fought 30 missions for the Afghan Air Force alongside British and American forces. We promised we would save those people who offered their lives to potentially be sacrificed in their and our fight against the Taliban for democracy, for values which we thought were worth fighting for. Now he's in a place in Britain being threatened with deportation. Would that be forced by handcuffs, by armed police, taking him on board a plane to go to Rwanda after we promised we would save them? He has actually even got the official permission process begun, this thing called ARAP, which we promised those who go through that would be protected and looked after. Britain gave its word. We cannot allow him to fall victim to what will be called a bureaucratic mistake, but actually for him could be a disaster.
And he had to leave in a hurry after that catastrophic evacuation led by the Americans. Joe Biden ordered it, and it was obviously, we saw the horrendous scenes on television. And amid all the chaos, there was no safe, easy, legal route for him to take to this country.
It was even worse than that, Piers. So the Independent pointed out that people who had to get the permission, this ARAP document, they had to go to a government office manned by the Taliban.
Right.
I mean, the horror...
Who, if they'd known what he'd been doing, they'd kill him.
Oh, he would be under threat. He's already had threats from them. He's got a family who is at risk.
Is he married with kids?
He's married with a child. We can't identify
But they're back in Afghanistan.
They're in Afghanistan.
I mean, it is a complete failure of our moral duty as a country. Let me bring in Lord Dannatt. Lord Dannatt, from your perspective, what do you think about this?
Well, Piers, just to put this in perspective, in July 2021, that was a month before our precipitate departure from Kabul and Afghanistan, I wrote an open letter supported by 43 service chiefs to the government to say we have got to do better, we've got to do more, and we've got to do more quickly for those Afghans who have stood shoulder to shoulder with us in the fight against the Taliban. And we got a pretty mediocre response, to be honest, from Priti Patel and Ben Wallace, who were the two ministers who replied to my letter. So frankly, there is no doubt at all that someone like this Afghan lieutenant, this pilot, who has flown 30 missions on behalf of the Afghan nation and in support of allied forces, he absolutely deserves our protection. And the thought that he could be extradited, sent away in handcuffs to Rwanda is just appalling. It's a different issue about that policy, but as far as this chap's concerned, he has earned his spurs, he has earned his ticket to stay in this country, and his family should be coming across to spend their life, their future life, in peace and security with us in this country.
I completely
and we should
agree.
be grateful to them.
Geordie, you've got a lot of people who have been supporting you. I read Bear Grylls gave a really stunning, I think, support for your campaign. What about Rishi Sunak? Because ultimately, as Prime Minister, he can probably decide this man's fate. Have you tried directly to contact him?
Well, we had a letter written directly to Rishi Sunak by this hero, who we are waiting for a reply. The letter we published, it couldn't have been more clear. It was ask him if he was going to keep the word of Britain. And we need to hear back. There's been some talk that he'd passed it on to the Home Office to look into. We know this.
No, that's not good
enough.
enough.
It's bureaucratic fudge.
I interviewed Rishi at Number 10. I think he's a decent guy. I think that, or I hope, if he's watching this now, and if not, we're going to send it to him. I hope, Prime Minister, you do the right thing. This man is a hero who helped us take on the Taliban. His family are in Afghanistan. We have a moral compulsion as a country to save this man and to take care of him and to take care of his family. You have got a big new development on this in your paper tomorrow.
We've got tomorrow's front page of the Independent, where he's been backed by Prince Harry's friend, former colleague, the former Marine, Ben McBain.
Yeah, I had him on the show, yeah.
Yeah, who says we've got to do what we said we'd do, which is to keep our word, to keep the people who fought to keep us safe, we will keep them safe. It's as simple as that. You know Harry. Can't you get him involved too?
I probably can't bring him tonight. But no, I'm sure that actually, I've always given Harry due credit for his service to his country in Afghanistan. And I think that if he is aware of this, I would like him to get involved and to support this, because to me, I mean, I'll bring Lord Dannatt back here. You know Harry very well. I'd imagine that would be helpful. Any pressure, I guess, right now from anyone high profile who's got any connection with the military, particularly if they've served in Afghanistan, I would imagine might help.
Well, Piers, you're absolutely right. And I'm sure Harry would be delighted to do that. But to be honest, I think where we've got to, through Geordie's campaign from the Independent and just the outrage that this issue has caused, I would be very surprised if Rishi Sunak or Ben Wallace doesn't push this one through. The whole policy of sending asylum seekers back to Rwanda can be altered by ministerial discretion. Frankly, this is an issue that is so clear, so obvious. We have a moral obligation to this young Afghan pilot lieutenant that they should use that discretion now. They should announce it publicly and also quietly say that his family will come here as well. Frankly, if people don't have confidence on overseas operations when they support the British forces, that we will look after them, why on earth will they look after us?
Well,
we'll be left in foreign countries, dithering away in languages we don't understand, and for goodness sake, we'll need them.
Yeah, I mean, my brother, as you know, he served in Afghanistan. He was a colonel over there, and he's incensed about this. He thinks that we've let all these people down. And so I know he would be vociferously supporting this.
Having people like Lord Dannatt, former Chief of the Defence Staff, an MC earned in Belfast, served in Kosovo, served in Iraq. These are people who fought for our country, and they don't come and support these things lightly unless they think this is supporting people who supported them when they led our army to do things which were necessary for the betterment of the world, for the maintenance of democracy and the fight for freedom. This is an important battle, and we really appreciate, Piers, you coming on board with it with us.
Well, I'm giving you the full support of this show because I think it is a really important battle. It may be one man, but it actually represents a large number of people who sacrificed a lot. Many of them sacrificed their lives. And he can't go back now because the Taliban will hunt him down and they'll kill him. And he must be terrified about what's going to happen to his family. So, Geordie, it's a great campaign. Happy to lend my support to it.
Really
we're going to keep hammering away at number 10, and hopefully we'll get some good news sooner rather than later. Thank you
really
for coming
appreciate
in.
that. Thank you.
And Lord Dano, thank you very much as always for coming on the programme and giving your support to it, which I think carries
well
all
done,
the weight.
Piers.
Good to see you.
Yeah, well done, my Piers, and best wishes to your brother.
Thank you. He always speaks, as you know, very highly of you. So I will do that. He'll be chuffed. Thank you very much.
Bless you.
Well, Uncensored next. Dance like an Egyptian? Absolutely not. It's culturally insensitive. Of course it is. Everything is. We're debating that next.
Britain's conversation. Oh no. With the People's Channel. No, what did I use? Every little helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger-licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. Talk TV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on Talk TV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
if you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Join Vanessa Feltz on Talk TV every day from 4 p.m. He's back, and he's uncensored. Debating the breaking news and talking to the biggest names. Piers Morgan is live every week with a host of stars. Uncompromising, unmissable, and uncensored. And remember,
if you're thinking it, we're talking about it.
Piers Morgan, Uncensored, Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on Talk TV.
Well, coming up on The Talk, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson and Liz Truss share what might just be the world's most awkward dinner in Belfast. Fergie proves she is still part of the firm as she gets an invitation to the Coronation concert. So is she taking Harry's ticket as he snubs the event? And Rebecca Vardy has trademarked Wagatha Christie so she can cash in. That's all at 9.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. It certainly has been tonight, hasn't it? Well, I'm joined by Kevin Maguire and Emily Sheffield. Welcome to both of you.
Yep.
Lovely to see you both. Just on that last story there, this Afghan war hero. it's very interesting to me that amid all these stories about the people trying it on the boats, the Albanian economic workers and so on, who just want an easy time here, you get stories like that which really touch you, and you realise that some of these people are genuinely desperate and deserving people who should be in this country.
More than half the people who get across the channel are given leaves to stay. It's what we've done is we've shut off the legal routes to try and keep them out. But I'll be surprised if you don't have a review of his case by tomorrow night.
Well, I shall be tweeting it to about 8.5 million people, which tends to have a little effect on Number 10 when we do that, because I do think it's completely outrageous. Let's talk about cultural appropriation, Emily. So a dance troupe for female pensioners has been forbidden from performing in sombreros and pharaoh costumes by Germany's National Garden Show after being accused of cultural insensitivity. Now, they're the AWO Ballet, performing since the 80s. They're a charity for the elderly and disabled to give women in their 60s, most of whom are widows, an outlet to socialise and dance. What is going on?
I don't... listen, I worked in the fashion industry for many years. Cultural appropriation was definitely happening there. You had a completely white industry taking black culture and selling it for a lot of money, and they were the ones taking them.
But what is wrong with cultural...
There is a place for cultural appropriation. Not here. This is ridiculous. They thought a sombrero was going to be insulting in some way, worn in a show by some lovely old ladies.
And I never think the people who we presume from these stories are supposed to be offended would be remotely offended. I've been in Mexico many times. I've never seen anyone in Mexico be offended by tourists wearing sombreros. So, Kevin, why can't we rename it cultural celebration? Why does everything have to be immediately offensive?
Yeah, well, blackface is certainly offensive. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
One time people used to.
But a sombrero on a widow dancing in a charity?
No, because they'll be allowed to wear ponchos. I mean, the only good thing is this festival's now moved them up on the main stage.
But where does this line get derived?
I think it's not bad to be aware and be respectful and question. But every now and again, if you're going to do that, just as you get ignorant people who trample all over others, you'll get people who are oversensitive and then make a mistake. And this just feels like a mistake.
The problem is, Emily, I just think this is creeping thing where once you give in to any of these things, it never stops. It never stops. Once you've established cultural appropriation, not a day goes by without somebody somewhere falling foul of culturally appropriating someone somewhere.
I literally don't think that they haven't looked up what cultural appropriation is and the roots of it. So I just think it's people sort of in a sort of panic. Oh my God, if we do this, we're going to get in lots and lots of trouble. They're not doing any research. They're not actually working out what is cultural appropriation, what isn't.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of got
why can't you celebrate other cultures?
Well, you can, but would you say it was okay to black up as a Jamaican?
I don't.
If you're white, would you? And then adopt an accent?
I certainly don't think that blackface is acceptable.
Yeah, so there is a limit. So you've agreed.
Of course. I'm not saying there's no limit.
Yeah.
But widows wearing a sombrero.
No, they've got it wrong here.
Is ridiculous.
You're right. You're right. The organisers got it wrong.
As I've said, I do think the white fashion industry definitely at times was stealing a black New York street culture, and they weren't seeing any of the money. And in some cases, one big fashion group actually had to pay a black street culture guy because they quite literally stole his designs without paying him.
Look,
that's wrong.
Yeah, there are limits.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone disputes that.
But a sombrero...
and also, I think intent is important. If you're intending to be offensive, right? So if you're deliberately culturally offensive to another culture, if you're mocking a culture, that's one thing. But if you're celebrating it, it's a totally different thing. I think we've lost that ability to draw a line between celebration and inappropriate appropriation. Right, haven't we?
Can do sometimes, but I think it's not bad to be aware and challenge. And if a load of Mexicans turn up, or Japanese, or Egyptians turn up and they're offended, then I think they should be listened to and not laughed at. And I know it hasn't happened in this.
But I subscribe to the Ricky Gervais thing, which is someone's always going to be offended somewhere about something.
Why are you going to be offended anyway if you're a Mexican and there's some nice old ladies wearing some sombreros?
I don't think you would be.
I mean,
I agree.
Everyone's sombreros when we go to Mexico.
I'm parish on St Patrick's Day when everyone dresses up in green as leprechauns and stuff. I don't run around saying I'm offended. I say, where's my Guinness?
No, I don't mind if somebody dresses up as Tower Bridge or whatever and mocks us as British or Beefeater. They can do what they like.
I don't understand why you would be offended.
But I can sometimes see people who've had a lot of abuse then will feel...
There's a line, but it's as with all woke things, it's just gone ridiculous. Talking of which, let's go to woke language. So we're now being told, apparently, that Boots, the chemists, they've changed the word less abled. Well, they've changed from disabled to less abled on a parking sign.
Can I talk about this, please? Because as someone who had a disabled nephew...
Yeah.
Sorry, why is less abled better than disabled?
Yes.
I think it's shocking. I think it's
like the Roald Dahl censorship when you couldn't call someone fat, you could call them gigantic.
You're saying someone is less able. I think it's more insulting than disable. There are some words we do need to change and rethink, quite a number of them. But to replace them with something which I think is worse.
Well, what about the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence have asked NHS staff to refer to alcoholics as people who misuse alcohol?
I don't mind that so much.
Why?
Because they are misusing alcohol.
But they're also alcoholics.
Insulting.
They're also alcoholics. It's like when you say you can't call fat people fat. Well, they're fat.
They're not going to. They're not going to.
Fat
I know, but
right. And by the way, when people say to me, "You're looking a bit fat," I go to the gym more and I lose a bit of weight, and they go, "You've lost a bit of timber, and it feels good."
I mind less about that. I think Boots saying someone is less abled is deeply insulting.
I can't see people going to meetings of people misusing alcohol anonymous. I think we'll just go to Alcoholics Anonymous, won't they?
Some of the others, Kevin, some of the others. They also asked this National Institute for staff to refer to drug addicts as people who use drugs, smokers as people who smoke, rough sleepers as people who experience homelessness.
Yeah,
this is as if any of this matters to these people.
Is this the NHS?
Huh?
Is this the NHS?
This is the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence.
These are definitions, aren't they?
I've asked NHS staff. Yeah, but here's my point. None of these people care about being called these things. This is some woke imbecile rewriting language for people who don't either know or care.
But also,
I've never heard a single smoker say, "How dare you call me a person who smokes?" It doesn't happen.
It's covering up much more serious issues. We've just heard all these stories this week of the NHS where people are being raped in hospitals, and we're talking, and they're being advised that NHS will have to talk.
But that's
what should be the headline.
That's been out for some while.
That's the point. The wokies, they get these ludicrous things amplified, and it smothers real stories.
Piers, come on.
We're amplifying
Let's just go back a bit. At one time, we used to talk about handicapped people.
You're no longer going to be called. Well, you're no longer going to be called the Piers Pack. You're going to be people who identify as packers. Okay, that's it. Just in case either of you are offended. Great to see you both. That's it from me. What a night. What a show. Whatever you're up to, keep it like this show. Uncensored. Good night.
Britain's conversation. Oh, no. With the People's Channel. No, what do you use? Every little helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger-licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. Talk TV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on Talk TV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
if you're thinking about it,